Hey guys, welcome to another video, and in this video I'll be telling you all about data types in Java. Now over here I am using BlueJ IDE, which is the ideal IDE integrated development environment that in which you could execute all your Java programs, and it is basically built for beginners in Java. So I have created a class over here. If you want to create a new class, you could create a new class by right-clicking, click on new class, and then you could give your class name. So the naming convention of naming classes is that whatever word you have, say for example, data, the first letter of the word should always be capital. So if I have data type, it will be divided into two words, data and type. So each first word of each word should be capital, data type. Now over here, when I open editor, if you want to open your editor, you right click again and click on open editor. When you click open editor, I have already written this program over here, and I'll be explaining it word by word to you over here. Now, class data type. Class is basically that whatever block, assume it to be whatever line of code you write in Java programs. Now, I assume you are a beginner, so I'll just tell it to you that the start of each Java program should have class and the basically the word class and the name of that class, unless you have some comments to add before the program. Now, what do comments mean? Comments are not part of the program. These are just notes that you write. It's like giving a math paper and there is a rough column in which you write your calculation. So it's just like that. The Java compiler won't consider these comments, these lines of code to as part of the program, so it won't compile them. So two slashes will be enough to tell the Java compiler that this is a comment. So whatever you write inside this will be a comment. It won't be considered as a line of code. So over here, I've written class data type and I have given curly braces. Now, why do we use curly braces in Java program? It's because whatever line of code or whatever block of code you are to write will be written inside these curly braces. If you haven't written curly braces, then the Java compiler or basically the IDE itself will throw an error. So I'll just compile this. So notice that when I removed the open curly braces, the entire color was wiped off the screen. That's because when I add a curly braces, so it will assume that the block of code is inside the open braces. And when I remove this, it has the IDE has gotten to know that you have removed the braces. So all of these lines will not be part of the uh, block of code of class data type. And notice here it has also given an error, curly braces expected. So I'll just add curly braces and the color is being restored. Public static void main. Now I'll not go into the details of what this line means. All you have to assume is that these two lines should precede each and every Java program that you are to write in the whole universal Java. So basically, I assume you to be a beginner. So as a beginner, I'll just tell you that these two lines are the most important in Java programs, and just write or these lines of code before the Java program. Then write your block of code. So after you have written these two lines, then the real part will start. Byte A is equal to 4. Now, what does this exactly mean? When you're initializing variables are basically names, and those names are assigned a value. So, say for example, you have byte over here. What exactly is a byte? There are data types known in Java, which in total there are 9 data types: byte, short, int, long, float, double, char, boolean, string, and each. And if you want to basically these four variables, these four lines, byte, short, int, long, are for simple numbers. Float and double over here. These two lines have float and double preceding these words over here and numbers. Float and double is basically for decimal points as given over here. And char is for single characters. If you want to write single characters or declare single characters, you have to use single quotes. Boolean is basically it has two values, true and false. It doesn't have many uses in Java program, but it has its uses. So if you give Boolean h is equal to true, then you can give it true or false, but you cannot give it a number or any sort of value. So if you give 567 and compile it, it will show this. Incompatible types and cannot be converted to Boolean. So I'll just give it as, let's say, blue. And string finally means that whatever line, whatever word, or whatever sentence you want to write, or whatever paragraph you want to write, anything that exceeds more than one character, anything that is one character's car, as in this case, but anything that exceeds one character will be considered as string, and it has to be enclosed in double quotes. Each and every line of code that you write in Java should end with a semicolon. Now over here, I have written double semicolon. So you only have to end the line of code with a semicolon. Now over here, I have initialized many variables, different variables over here, such as A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. These are different types of variables which store different values. A is equal to 4. Now the variable A is being assigned the value 4. B is equal to 123. That is, B is being assigned the value of 123. C is being assigned the value of 65449, and the list goes on. Now, basically, out of these four, so these four lines of code have byte, short, int, long as the data types, but the most used data type is int. See, according to your preference, if you want to use byte or short, it's according to you. Whatever you want to use is completely fine with me. Whatever brings you happiness is fine with me. But mostly, most programmers use int. And each of these data types have ranges. So the most shortest range in numbers is byte, and the most longest range of numbers is long. Byte has, I think, minus 124 to 125, so it's a pretty limited number range. But float has, the range of billion to billions, the range between billions of numbers. So each of these consumes different number of memory. You're just a Java beginner, so memory doesn't mind much. When you go into web development, each one of these variables, these data types will consume some amount of memory. So it's always better to use int as a default data type for declaring your variables. So if you do not notice that in Python, if you have already learned Python and come into Java, you don't have to initialize your variables. But if you do the same type of convention in this method over here and you compile it, then it will give error. Cannot find symbol variable C because I haven't preceded it with a data type in C. Now, over here, you can use any data type over here as long as it is a number. If you want to use decimal points, these two data types, float and double, are used. Now, again, it is according to your preference what you have to use, but most programmers will go with double. Notice that after 3.22, I've added F. When you have to declare a float data type before the variable name, you have to add F, because if I don't and I compile it over here, it will display an error. It will throw an error. So I'll just add float over here. You don't need to do that for double. Then you have char. I have already explained you about char. Boolean h is equal to true. Boolean will have two values, true and false. String will have any character more than one character. Any number of characters more than one will be considered as a string, but it has to be enclosed in double quotes. Now over here, I have used system.out.println. You may have seen my earlier video. If you haven't, please go to that video, see that video. You might get a rough idea of uh, what system.out.println means. I won't go into that much details. I've already explained it in my previous video. But system.out.println is basically sub packages. So this is the main package. So if you have system versions, you have software versions such as 3.09.1234. So this is the major version of it. This is the minor version of it, and these are just bug fixes of software versions. So similarly, it's like you can consider this to be the same example of the paradox. In this case, system will be the major package, out will be the sub package of system, and then println will be the sub package of out. So system contains out, and out in return contains println. If you want to communicate with these sub packages and name packages, you have to use dot, because if you don't use dot and compile it, it'll throw an error. Cannot find symbol variable system out. So I have to separate these with dot. And system.out.println is basically one of the most used lines in the whole of Java programming universe. You basically use system.out.println to get a text or a value on the output window. Byte short value is, so any text that you want on the output window will be displayed within double quotes. And now you might notice over here that I have added plus A plus B plus C. What does this basically mean? Now you can add values to the quote or the statement that you will have to add on the output window. So say for example, byte value is plus A. Now what is the value of A? A basically calls the variable earlier, which has the variable 4. So this will basically A, you have to call, you can't, you have to remember in Java program that you can't call a value. You have to call the variable that is stored, that the value is stored in. So say for example, if you want to call 123, I will call, I will just place it as B. So that B has the value 123 and it will be written as byte value is B, that is 123. I'll just compile this and show to you and you'll get the rough idea of it. So I'll compile this, I'll minimize the window, I'll just right click on it. And if you want to compile it, just click on the second option over here, void main string house. The pop-up box will be displayed, click OK, and you have a terminal window over here, which has print the whole thing. Now notice, if I open my previous output window, notice that over here, I have written byte value is. So anything that is enclosed within double quotes will be printed on the output window. Byte value is 4. Now notice over here that I haven't, I have just called the variable and it is to be separated by, sorry, it is to be separated by plus. So if you want to add this and this variable, you have to use plus, because if you do not use plus and you compile it, you'll get an error. Semicolon expected, that's exactly, the IDE might have another error in its mind, but we have to be careful of that. We'll just add plus A, and that adds this value to this value. A basically has the value 4, so it will print byte value is 4. Similarly, short value is anything that is depicted within double quotes will be written on the output window. And you have B. Now B basically calls the variable, the main variable B, which has the value 1, 2, 3, which will be printed over here. So you get the rough idea. That's what the whole program is. Thanks a lot for watching this video. Please make sure to watch my other videos, upcoming videos, and thanks a lot for your support. Have a great day. Have a safe day. Thank you.